is Wednesday again. My name is Carlos Navia. This is the Wednesday weekly learning session for local bartending school. I do this every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific time at 6 p.m. Eastern time. You are welcome to join live by following the link on the local bartending school's Facebook page. If you are a student, there is one link where you can just go directly into this. If you are not a student, there is another link. We'll ask you for a little bit of information, and then you'll be able to join the class and ask any questions you like. So we're going to talk a little bit about President's Day and the upcoming 3-day weekend. But I always like to know if there are any questions. And I know Monty has a question. I'd be happy to answer to the best of my ability.
So had a customer call in and say, hey, what's your corkage fee? And I know in Colorado, I've seen people bring wine into the various restaurants, especially up where I live. So I looked it up because I didn't know what an average corkage fee. Found out that we are one of 25 states where it is illegal to bring any alcoholic beverage into a restaurant. Completely illegal, not even allowed ever. So other restaurants maybe have done it illegally, but that's the thing that I think could catch people by surprise, of specifying a corkage fee when it's not even legally allowed.
Wow. So you can't bring your own wine in Colorado?
Nope, not according to a state statute. It was killed in a bill last year to allow it because people want it. But of course, our legislature voted it down.
Yeah, because it's a big thing here where I live, because people people that go to the wineries here and buy cases and cases directly from the winery, they have hundreds of bottles sometimes laying around. It's crazy. If they're in the wine club, basically you pay for a wine club membership, get discounted cases. And these people, as soon as they introduce whatever they're putting out these people to just go stock their wine cellar and, have some every weekend and stuff like that. So it's big. They want this certain wine. Like I drink this every Friday night. If I'm going out, I'm just taking it with me because they probably don't have it. But that's kind of great. I mean, I understand there's certain philosophy to not letting people bring in their own alcohol, and you can't bring anything else in here. It's only your bottle of wine. You can't bring in your own bottle of booze, your own beer, or anything like that. It just relates to wine because that's kind of a little different. People have very particular tastes in wine. And when I talk to people about selling bottles, that's a big thing too. Selling bottles is easy. And one of the easiest ways I sell bottles is that someone will not like the choice of wines you offer by the glass, but they see a bottle they like. True. But I don't want the whole bottle. I'm not going to drink it. Well, I'll get you the bottle. You drink as much as you want. I'll pack it back up for you and you can take it home. And a lot of times, you can get someone to buy a $50, $60, $70 bottle instead of a $10 glass, and they're happier about it. And, they're having a better time. But that's crazy. I didn't know that. And that's so weird because the far end extreme of that is like when I used to live in Tennessee, when I used to live in Memphis, when I went to college, there's a place, God, why can't I even think of the name of the place now? There's a very famous rib place in Memphis, and the Rendezvous.
Corky's? So,
Rendezvous. Corky's is okay. The Rendezvous is where it's at. Like, I've seen buddies just like, dude, you just been putting sauce on a bone and sucking it off for 20 minutes. There's not been meat on there in a while. The guy, he just put it down, dude. It's just a bone. But they didn't have a liquor license. And there are some other places like that too. There's a nightclub like that we'd go to. So you could just bring your own bottle of Jack Daniels, and they'd bring you pitchers of Coke or whatever you wanted to mix it with and cups, and just bring your own bottle of booze in with you. And that was perfectly legal. They did it all the time. And that's like the far end extreme. You can't even bring a bottle of wine in Colorado. They're like, no, just bring your bottle of whiskey. And what do you want? 7-Up or,
Well, I bring it up only because of the fact that according to Google, not that it's accurate, 25 states don't allow that. So I just thought maybe your bartenders might want to check their state out to see what the law is. Because when, like Tennessee, for the first 10 years we lived there, you couldn't even order wine from California. And they finally passed a law that allowed you to order wine.
You're breaking up. Sorry, you're breaking up on me a little bit. Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. Breaking up on me a little bit.
Oh, there you go. What I was just saying is that maybe you might want to let your future bartenders do a research on their state just to make sure they don't get in trouble.
Yeah. And, with the class, you get a certification for the state you're in. So that lets you know these are the laws in each individual state, because there are weird ones. And I don't know every law for every state, because it goes Like when you start getting into some really depths of laws and things like habitual drunkard law, and that means one thing on the East Coast and northeastern states, and it means a different thing in Florida. In like New York, a judge has to declare you a habitual drunkard. It's like being non-complimented. It means you can't take care of yourself because you're a drunkard. So if a judge says that and the bartender knows that, it's against the law to serve that person a drink. In Florida, it has to be an immediate family member brings the establishment in writing a letter saying, my immediate family member is a drunk, don't serve them. You have to keep it on file, and it's against the law to serve them. So it's such weird, even adaptations of basically like kind of the same type of laws. So yeah, I do encourage that. And what's funny is I'm really glad they include that with the local bartending school. Because even trying to Google some laws, unless you can really go through hundreds of pages of just law speak, which I cannot, it is very, very hard to find a clear answer. And the other thing is it's all kind of interpretive. That's why we have courts, and that's why we have lawyers, because it's not really, black and white in some cases. So, yeah, know the law, follow the law. I'm big on that. It's I'll say something and get off it, but it's very much like one of those things like, young kids think nothing can, that can never happen to me. It can happen to you. It's so fast for everybody having a good time just for something to go really, really wrong, if you're not following the rules and you're not being careful. And so, know the laws, follow laws. You don't want to get into trouble. That is the biggest thing, protect yourself. So thank you for Monty for letting me know, because now I am going to Google that because I want to know the states where it's against the law, because I'm betting there's discrepancies even between the different laws between those states in what they allow and what type of situations and stuff like that. Okay, awesome. Any other questions? All right. So it is already another 3-day weekend. Coming up, President's Day. First of all, the Rams won the Super Bowl, and LA is going ecstatic. It was a very, very good game, which is always fun to have a good game. I watched at home alone. I put a TV on the bar, sat outside, fired up the barbecue. It was fantastic. Except I think the kids across the way my feed was a little behind them. So I would hear cheering and then be like, what's going on? Wait, something's about to happen in my game. So it was still good. Had a good time, had a fun time. They had their parade through LA today, which I watched some of today too, which was a good time. They were out there partying, 10 a.m., champagne, having a good time in the streets of LA. So really fun. Did watch the halftime show with the wife. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Nothing will ever beat Prince in 2007 in the rain in Miami. So he kind of set the bar high, but they did an okay job. And of course, then Monday was Valentine's Day. So I hope everybody remembered that. Had a good time. From kind of looking around here and talking to some people that worked on Valentine's Day, I think a lot of people did stuff over the weekend as opposed to necessarily going out Monday night or having some big hoopla or celebration Monday night, which I did. I went to Santa Barbara with wife, had a good time. So, hopefully everything went well. Everybody had a good, Valentine's, had some fun, and got home safely, had a good time. But then, it's another holiday next Monday. But this time it's a 3-day weekend. Most people will get the Monday off. So once again, remember, there's going to be a lot of people out. There's going to be a lot of people on the roads. Please be careful if you're drinking. Don't drive. Uber, Lyft. That's what they're there for. There's no reason to do that. So what are we celebrating? Originally, it was Washington's birthday, and it's kind of evolved now into President's Day, where we're celebrating all presidents. Been around for a long time. They started celebrating Washington's birthday not too long after his death, being the father of our country. I always felt like when I was a kid, we used to get off Monday for Lincoln's birthday, and then we get off another day for Washington's birthday. And then at some point, they mashed them together into President's Day and cost me a day out of school. So now we just get the one, and they moved them all to Monday so that they always fall on Monday, like a couple like Veterans Day and a couple other things like that. Well, Veterans Day they moved back, I think, but a couple other holidays like that. So we got the 3-day weekend coming up. Expect to be busy. Expect there to be a lot of people out. We're having pretty good weather here, although it's cooled off, no longer 85. So we don't want to talk about politics because we don't talk about politics at the bar. So I tried to find a fun way around this to kind of throw something out there for President's Day. So fun presidential facts that relate to the spirit industry and relate to spirits. George Washington, after leaving office, built a distillery on his grounds at Mount Vernon under the bequest of his his landscaper, his gardener, who was from Europe, and said, look, it's really easy. We got all the stuff right here. We could just go ahead and do this. So he built what at the time was the biggest distillery in the United States. 5 giant copper kettles, giant warehouses, and they would make rye whiskey and corn whiskey. He even made cinnamon whiskey, just like Fireball, which everybody loved. I did have a Fireball. Everybody loves. I can still taste the cinnamon. Everybody loves. Is he not only the father of our country, but the father of the Fireball as well? Don't know. The History Channel did not know that one. The History Channel didn't mention that. But had his distillery, and I was, of course, wondering, is the distillery still around today? Because I would want to drink George Washington's whiskey. It is not. After his death, it was left to his nephew. And then at some point, it burned down. The nephew took the money from the insurance company, and no one ever saw the nephew again, and he was gone. And that was the end of it. And that was the end of George Washington whiskey. Nephew took the money. Thomas Jefferson loved beer. I was reading this. Said his wife would make him a batch every 2 weeks of a 15-gallon batch. So 15-gallon batch every 2 weeks. That's about a gallon of ale a day. That's in the ale, probably pretty strong that they're drinking. That's probably quite a bit for everyday consumption. Eventually, after he was president, he started growing his own raw materials, producing his own 60-gallon casks of ale. And, eventually the neighbors would stop by and he'd offer them a beer. And eventually his beer became very popular. And the neighbors started trying to hit him up for the recipe, but he didn't want to give anybody the recipe because he figured they'd just screw it up. So he went to Madison and said, look, instead of me giving you the recipe, you get a man and you send him over. And I'm just going to train him how to do it the right way. And then I'll send him back and he can just make the beer for him. So that's how popular, Thomas Jefferson's beer became and how he kind of passed it on to other presidents. John Adams started every day with a hard cider. Boom. Just to get the system going, just to get moving. There's one that gets worse down the field. I like this one too. James Monroe had a small scandal when 1,200 bottles of French wine and champagne showed up, and they were billed to an account that was set aside to furnish the executive mansion, well, before the White House. So they gave him money for furniture, and he bought 1,200 bottles of wine and champagne. Thought that was pretty funny as well. Abraham Lincoln, who didn't drink in office, and there's a handful of those. I noticed that a lot of them were big drunks, but George Bush Jr. had issues with substances before becoming president, so he had sworn it off. He drinks Diet Coke. And the other one, Trump, also Diet Coke. That's his drink of choice. Who knew? But before getting into politics, Abraham Lincoln owned a tavern with a buddy of his named Barry. It started out as a grocery store. And, in those days, there wasn't a lot of stores in the town. The grocery store would also be a place you could get a drink. Eventually, they got a liquor license, and it was Barry and Lincoln Tavern. And he worked as the bartender and ran his tavern. But eventually, his partner, Barry, like happens so many times in so many bars, was more into the drinking than the working. and spent more time drinking than working. So eventually he kind of headed out of that and got himself into politics and started getting into politics and stuff like that. But I think it's funny because that's literally the story of every other episode of Bar Rescue. Is that one person puts their work into the bar and one person sits at the bar and drinks away the profits. And they're like, I don't know what to do. He's my best friend. We got into this together. It's like every second or third episode. And it's funny. Same thing happened to Lincoln, hundreds of years ago. The same kind of thing was still happening. So Barry and Lincoln's Tavern. Love it there. Andrew Jackson sold and made whiskey down in Louisiana, I believe. And then we start to get into, is there a drink named after a president? Well, President William McKinley had his own drink called McKinley's Delight. So let's see if we can replicate a little McKinley's Delight here. Let me get some water. So it's going to be like a martini. We're going to do it up. And where's my sweeper? Going to get a little ice here. Chill out my martini glass because I do not have a cooler, refrigerator, or freezer back here. But we'll just put a little water in there and get it nice and chill. Set that off to the side. All right. So now, rye whiskey, but I guess you could use any kind of whiskey. So I'm going to throw a little bit of ice in here, not fill it too full. It's kind of like a little take on a Manhattan here. So if we're going to do rye whiskey, this will represent our rye whiskey here. We're going to do an ounce of that, or actually we're going to do 2 ounces of that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dump that in there. And then we do an ounce of sweet vermouth. And I believe this is about the color of sweet vermouth that I'm looking for. Dump an ounce of that in there. So the other thing you would put in there, kind of like a Manhattan, but instead of putting bitters in there, he would put a couple dashes of cherry liqueur. I believe I've got something slightly red in here like that. And then he'd also put in a little touch of absinthe. And who doesn't like a little touch of absinthe is something? We'll just put a couple drops there. That's almost the color, not quite. Good enough for us. And absinthe, we can get real absinthe now. Just remember, if you're going to get it, make sure it says with real wormwood. That is the key. That was the banned ingredient they thought made everybody crazy. And now, I don't know, our phones make us crazy, I guess. Pop that in there. It's going to lock in place. It's not going anywhere. Give it a nice shake and smile. Get that mixed up. Pop nicely like that. Get rid of our water here. Pour it here into our martini glass. There we are. And we have a little McKinley's Delight for President William McKinley. And we'll finish it off with a nice lemon twist. Where's my peeler? There we are. And trick to one of these, keep the peeler in the same place, move the fruit, and you'll get a nice long peel like that. We're going to go all the way around the edge of the outside, getting the oils on there, get a nice squeeze over the top. And we have McKinley's Delight presidential cocktail. When I first started looking, sorry, it's on my mic, please. Let's look it up. Presidents, my first thing was El Presidente, and that's not even American. I'm sorry, but no, I do not have any El Presidente drinks. All right, who else we got here? Teddy Roosevelt, while living in the White House as president, would invite guests over and he would make them mint juleps with fresh grown mint from the White House garden. So look at him using the garden to make cocktails for people he invited over. Woodrow Wilson took a campaign slogan from a whiskey brand and used it to run for president. I thought that was interesting. Here we go. We got another one. Calvin Coolidge has its own cocktail. I saw it in one place and I kind of looked it up in another place too. And it was the same recipe, but the story is a little different. I guess invented after his death by a certain brand that was trying to sell their particular Jenner vodka. So that's a little disappointing. It wasn't made during his time, but still he's got a drink dedicated to him. So the Coolidge Cooler. So if I take a little, and we'll mix this one up before we put it in the glass. I'll throw some ice in here. And if we do some vodka, we're going to do 1.5 ounces of vodka. And once again, I'm just using colored water out here. None of this is real alcohol. If you see me throwing stuff out over here to the side, I'm not throwing away any of it. And so I've got my vodka in there. We're also going to do 1/2 ounce of whiskey. I've got my whiskey here. 1, 2, there we go. Vodka and whiskey, interesting combination. The other thing they put in there is what they call falernum syrup, kind of like orgeat syrup. It's made from sugar and lime. It's a sweet syrup, but it's also got some spices in there. They say like baking spices, ginger, cloves, stuff like that. Maybe some almonds or nutmeg. You might get some nuttiness in there. So we'll put a little here of what would be our falernum syrup, like that. Get on, my buddy. I'm gonna give this a little shake just to mix it up just a bit. Get that nice and going. Gonna get some fresh rocks here in Collins glass. And we'll strain this over some fresh ice. So got our whiskey or vodka, sweet syrup, a little bit of lime, and some baking spices, as they say. And then we're going to top it off with some club soda, but also some orange juice. I'm just going to pour these two in here at the same time, 50-50, theoretically at the same time, like that. Let's see. Get a nice straw in there, get mixed in. Get that all mixed together. And then we're going to give it, let's put a cherry on it. Give it a nice cherry here to break it up, give it some color. And we have our Coolidge Cooler for President Calvin Coolidge. Bam, 2 presidential cocktails. All right, I know there's one more in here that makes me laugh, so I got to get to that. Harry Truman would have a shot of bourbon every morning after he woke up, just to get the days going, get the blood flowing. Got to deal with a lot of stuff as the president. FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, liked a drink called a Bermuda rum swizzle. So I saw this one too. I can do this one, but I can do this one. I'm gonna grab a fancy glass, my tulip glass here, something that looks pretty. Too much ice. All right, and take my club soda out of the way. So, rum going to be the main ingredient in this one. We're going to do 2 ounces of what kind of looks like rum into there. Like that. Then I need some fresh lime juice. So, actually, let me bring this over here. It'll get too easier. I'm going to cut my lime in half. And remember, 1/2 ounce, or half a lemon, half a lime, about 1/2 ounce. So we're just going to go ahead and squeeze the whole lime in there. That. And we got about our ounce of fresh lime juice. There. And then once again, we'd come back with a little bit of that falernum syrup. I can't even say it right. I know I'm saying it wrong. So it's kind of a little Mai Tai-ish. It's going to have a little of that nutty syrup. It's going to have some rum in there. It's going to have some lime juice. And then we're going to top it off with some orange juice. And I didn't shake this one up, but I will go ahead and give it a little mix. If you got a second, a little mix for some rum drinks, something like that. Of course, it was a Mai Tai. I would be floating the rum on top, giving it the right effect, the right look like that. We'll come here and garnish it up real pretty like. With a piece of orange. And give it a cherry. And put this out of the way. And we'll give it what they refer to as a flag. I'm actually going to do this flag with an umbrella. So I'm going to take off my umbrella. We'll make it look tropical. since it is a Bermuda rum swizzle. So we have a nice little flag here with the umbrella. Orange cherry. Boom. Set it just in there like that. Give it a nice straw. And we have our Bermuda rum swizzle. There you go, for FDR, for Franklin Roosevelt. All right, we push this off to the side. Got one more coming from one of my favorite presidents. John F. Kennedy, very polarizing president. Everybody loves him. He liked daiquiris. He liked Bloody Marys, and he drank Heineken. And kind of, I read this, more than one kind of thing said, Heinekens were a big deal at the time. Like getting that imported beer was like a big thing. It was kind of a status thing, you know. So that was it. That was his go-to. But he was kind of, I guess, a legendary partier, you know, as far as presidents go, you know. And well, won't get into any more particulars than that. This I think is hilarious. So Richard Nixon, good old tricky Dick. He liked to drink red wine. He would drink Chateau Lafite Rothschild. Very nice. A couple $100 a bottle for this very nice stuff. So that's what he would drink. But then he would have the staff of the White House take really cheap red wine, put a towel around it so no one could see the label, and pour everybody else really cheap red wine as he drank the Rothschild and enjoyed it. So, you know, Tricky Dick was pulling tricks even when it came to serving drinks at the White House. You know, he was still even Tricky Dick there. So I thought that was absolutely hilarious. God, I thought I had a picture of this, but I was trying to look it up, but I couldn't find the right picture. I didn't get it turned up. I didn't get it opened up. Clinton likes a snake bite. And if you've never seen that, you can take half a glass of cider, any kind of cider, pear, peach, raspberry, whatever you got, and then top it off with like, you can do it really with any beer. I was taught to do it with Guinness, because you can get Guinness to sit on top of the cider completely by taking the Guinness spoon, you know, and pouring it gently over the back of the spoon. Or I can do it with a bar spoon too if I don't have the Guinness spoon that has the little, they make one with a little thing in there that sits on the side of the glass. It's nice, it's fun, it's cool if you have it. If you don't, I can still do it with a bar spoon. If you just push the handle back slightly, remembering the Guinness handle goes 180 degrees, it goes in both directions. Put it back slightly over the top. You can layer the Guinness on top of the cider. And it's called a snake bite. It's good. Actually, because I was looking at pictures of them, I'm totally about to go get some Guinness and cider and make myself some later, because it's been a very, very long time since I've had one. But, you know, depending on what flavor you like, you kind of get, you know, ciders can be very sweet, can be kind of overly sweet. Guinness is a little bit on the bitter side. It kind of balances itself out like that. You know, the other one, they always make black and tan, which is Guinness on top of heart. But I've done it with other beers because I've worked at places here that don't have hearts. So trying to find a nice ale, something that's kind of got some good color to it. And you can do that at black and tan as well. And you can do that with your bar spoon as well. So Bill Clinton liked the snake bites. Obama likes beer. And I think he was pretty open about it. I think there's a lot of pictures of him drinking beers. Being at places having a beer, baseball game, or different social situations where he's definitely having a beer. But I thought this was cool. He's the first president to actually brew beer at the White House. And when he was there, he made his own Obama beer and brewed his own beer that he drank while he was president at the White House. Now, will he maybe open his own brewery and make Obama beer available to the masses? You know, we can write him a letter. And I'll sit down. I don't know what yeah, buddy.
Don't forget Carter and Billy beer.
Oh, Billy's beer. Yeah, you know, the thing is, Jimmy Carter wasn't even a big drinker. Occasional glass of white wine if it was a social situation, but he wasn't like the big drinker. Where some of these, I really. I did not go the path of, like, you could Google who was the drunkest president? And there's a top 5 list. I did not go that path. That's what I was going to go into. But yeah, he is one of the ones, very, very light drinker. But yes, Billy Spear, you're absolutely correct. All right, Obama. Yes, Obama. Bring your beer to the masses. We're waiting for it. We'll be out there ready to go for it. And then Ronald Reagan, who, lived in California, lived in this area. I think he's actually buried out here somewhere where the Ronald Reagan Museum is. It's kind of weird to find that he liked an orange blossom special. And I'm like, that's not a cowboy drink. Okay, because he's a cowboy. All right. One of the hotels I talk about here, the Madonna Inn, big pink place. It's also a working ranch. Okay, they have horses. You can go on horse tours. It hosts calf roping tournaments, stuff like that. It is very country. It is very cowboy. Alex Madonna, who created it, was good friends with John Wayne and Ronald Reagan, and there's pictures of them in the hotel of them all riding horses out here in the mountains. So I think that's funny. Not the most manliest drink, and not what I expected to find when I looked it up. But what the heck, we can give it a go. Orange Blossom Special for President Ronald Reagan. Maybe my favorite president. Maybe that's just because I was a kid when he was in office, and everything's kind of great when you're a kid and you don't really have a job or bills or responsibilities, and none of your dreams have died. And I'll stop. I'm just saying. So go ahead. We're going to get our glass chill. We're going to do this one up like we did, up like a martini. What's funny else, I was going through a couple of things. We're like, what did most presidents drink? What did presidents drink most? A lot of the earlier presidents drank a Madeira, this French kind of wine blend that they used to make and bring. A lot of them, whiskey is very popular, and a lot of them martinis. That was the big one that was like the most presidents liked. I think the most presidents drank out of anything was martinis. So we're just going to make this one up like a martini, and my mixing tin here. So the Orange Blossom or Orange Blossom Special. Now, originally a drink done with gin, but as I kind of looked up Ronald Reagan liked it with vodka. And kind of one of those things, like martinis have gone from gin to vodka, and do both, and several other drinks like gimlets as well. So we're going to do his with some vodka here. We'll go ahead and do an ounce of our faux vodka there. And then some sweet vermouth. So kind of like, and I could see this working better with gin actually than vodka. Kind of like a gin, almost Manhattan or almost a little Negroni-ish, kind of on the Negroni side. So we'll go ahead and we'll do our ounce of sweet vermouth in there as well. And then we're going to get some fresh orange juice. We're going to do an ounce of that in there as well. Fresh squeezed. I squeezed it myself this morning. Pay no attention to the label. All right. So go ahead. Am I missing something? Nope. Go ahead, pop that in there, lock it in place. Give it a nice shake. I don't know if I can do some fun bartending stuff like that today. Oh, got that mixed up. Pour our water out. It actually looks pretty good. Like I said, I think it'd be better with gin, a little Bombay Sapphire, something like that. Give it a nice flavor. A little shake, a little more is going to come out there. And we should give this a nice garnish as well. Let's go ahead and give it a cherry and a piece of orange as well. We'll give it a nice flag on the side too. There we go. All right. For Ronald Reagan, the president of my youth, your Orange Blossom Special, sir. May you enjoy it. All right. So that's talking about President's Day weekend. I didn't want to go too deep into it, just kind of having some fun with some of the presidents. We do have one more Wednesday in February, which is Black History Month. So we'll talk a little bit about contributions of the African American bartender. Also, we are about to go into spring break time coming up in March. So that's kind of the next thing coming up. And, spring breaks will start. And then we are only a couple weeks away from St. Patty's Day. And before we know it, we'll be back to one of the other, big rookie nights of the season of the year. I'm going to try very hard to get video of this, because what they do in my town is the college kids stay up all night the night before drinking. And at 5:30 in the morning, they're lined up waiting to get into bars in elaborate green outfits. So I would like to set my alarm very early and see if I can get some quality video of this. Because of COVID, the last 2 years, it really hasn't gone down like it has in the past. But based on the house party 2 weeks ago next door, I would imagine that there's no holds barred right now in this area because they don't seem to be stopping anybody from congregating or getting together and having a massive party. So hopefully we'll have some good fun, and we'll have some of those good fun outfits out there, and I can make a good video and have a fun video of that. Otherwise, that's all for presidents. Any questions about anything?
Yeah, I know you know this, but just to let you know, don't ever go to Ireland and say black and tan.
And say what?
Black and tan. Don't ever say I want a black and tan.
Black and tan. Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. Totally an American thing. Just drink the Guinness. Just drink your Guinness. There was a time, God, there's another bartender that got me into this. But there's a point where we would go out and drink nothing but Guinness and Jägermeister all night long. I don't know why. But he did it. And he taught me so much about bartending that he was my hero. I'm like, I want to be like you. What do you drink? And that lasted for a little while. I was like, I don't think so. In my younger days, we don't get into this story. I miss my I had one buddy in Arizona, the only person that could drink 35 hours straight with me. But that's a story for another time. That's actually my birthday is March 16th. His birthday is March 17th. We would start on the night of my birthday and drink entirely through the next day until last call on his birthday. And that was how we would play it. The anniversary that's coming up, not coincidentally. All right. So we will call it a day. Thank you very much. Always appreciate it. Thank you, Monty, for your input. Like I said, we'll talk about African American bartenders and their contributions, and I'm sure we'll talk about a mint julep, because I know that's one of the big ones that were made back in the days in like Virginia. So we'll talk about mint juleps as well next week. All right. Thank you very much. Have a great week. Be safe. Be safe this weekend if you get out there on the roads, if you're driving around. Please be safe. Thank you.